Are you guys interested in getting into PC gaming, but you just don't know where to start? You don't know what parts to buy. You don't know which components are best for upgrading in the future? Well, if so, this video is for you. What is going on, guys? Chad here from How To Tech, the channel dedicated to helping you take your tech to the next level. And in today's video, we're going to be budgeting out a $500 gaming computer. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, guys, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is budget out the system for which parts you want to buy. And there are a few things that you're going to buy with any system that you build. You're going to buy a motherboard. That is if you're starting from scratch. You're going to buy a motherboard, a processor or CPU, a memory, storage, video card, case, and a power supply. And another thing you might need to throw in there is an operating system, and there are videos on the internet of how you can get like Windows 10 Pro and stuff like that for only $10. So be sure to look up something like that if you guys need an operating system and you don't have one already. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is the parts that we've selected, and we're going to kind of talk about some of them and why we selected them. So starting first with the AMD Ryzen 3 2200G. This is a quad-core processor, and the reason for selecting this is 1, you get a processor, 2, it's quad-core, and 3, it comes with a cooler. And another reasoning behind this is the socket that this processor uses is extremely awesome. It's going to allow you to upgrade in the future, and with the same socket you can go from anything like a quad core like we've got now all the way to an 8 core, which is twice that, and 16 threads. So there is a lot of upgrading ability, headroom, and stuff like that in the future. Also, something that this supports is integrated graphics. So say for example you wanted to go ahead and buy this processor and use this as a work computer, like something that you do, maybe your email and your work stuff from home, and you want to buy the graphics card later, you can shave off like however much that graphics card is and get a computer today and maybe not game on it until later. So yeah, you could shave $150 off this total price, and you could start using the computer today, and then you could add the graphics card later. So that's a really neat aspect of that as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the motherboard, because this is where a lot of our upgrading ability comes from, is from selecting this motherboard. So the motherboard we selected was the ASRock B450M Pro 4 Micro ATX AM4 motherboard. So let's get into what all this lingo means. ASRock, that's the brand. B450M is the motherboard kind of family. And the reason why we went with a B450M, and the reason why I like using PC Part Picker, is because it is directly compatible with the Ryzen 3 2200G. You can select a cheaper motherboard that'll be like a Ryzen 350 or something like that. But the problem you run into is you have to update that motherboard and before you can use it. And that means you're going to have to buy another processor, which means you might be spending another $80, which kind of throws us off of a budget build and more into troubleshooting technology, and that's not what we want from this for you guys. Let's look at this motherboard, for example. You guys might not know a lot about motherboards, but there are quite a few features that make this motherboard really awesome. 1, you've got 4 slots for your RAM or your memory. And what this means is it gives you really good upgrading headroom, so you can add more and more memory in the future. That's always super awesome. Like I mentioned, this CPU socket, the processor you'd be throwing in if you built this computer, is a 4-core, but you can go anywhere up to an 8-core 16-thread, which means you can do a lot of multitasking. You can stream and record 1080p at the same time. It is super neat. One reason why I recommend this platform to people. There are a few other things. So this also supports M.2. If you're not anywhere invested into computers, you might not have any idea what that means, but that's just another alternative to a hard drive or an SSD, and it's super fast. So there's options for that in the future for you as well. Like I said, I want tons of upgrading headroom, and that's why I'm not going to show you guys a computer that costs $300, because that $300 computer is not going to have near as much upgrading headroom as this does. So 2 other things. You can add 2 graphics cards to this. I don't know if it actually supports that or not. You can check the motherboard. The main reasoning for this is because it gives you options. You can throw something other than a graphics card in this bottom one here. You could throw in a network card, a USB expansion card, And there's a few reasons behind this, because what I like this for is it has this slot above here, and this is where I would put in a capture card. So you could throw in like a Elgato or an AverMedia capture card, and you can actually record your console or even your PC gameplay through that. So you have some more headroom and just a lot of other stuff like that to be able to use. It's also got some fan headers and stuff on here so you can populate your fans. I don't know how many it has, but it seems like it has quite a few down here as well. So overall, really decent motherboard. And let's look at the RAM. So I'm actually going to bring this motherboard right back up, and we're going to look at this. So you can see we have 4 of these memory slots. We are going to be looking at getting 8 gigs, which is 2 4-gig sticks of Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM. Reason why I suggest LPX RAM is the RAM sticks are shorter, low profile. They're shorter than your regular sticks of RAM. And where this is going to come in handy is if you guys plan on upgrading this computer in the future and you get a bigger cooler for that processor, you don't want any clearance issues, because then you might have to spend another 60 to 120 bucks or even more, depending on how much your RAM costs, on RAM. This is going to keep you from ever having that problem. So you get 2 of these sticks. They're going to take up 2 of these slots, and that's going to be 8 gigs. You can also buy another exact set like this in the future, and then you can end up having 16 gigs. My advice to you is, if you guys already have aspirations for doing YouTube or streaming and you need a lot of RAM, go ahead and buy 2 8-gig sticks instead of 2 4-gig sticks. And the reason why is because then you can have, if you buy an 8-gig stick, then you have the possibility of 16 times 2, you can have 32 gigs in total, which is quite a bit. If you buy 2 4-gig sticks, you got 8. You're only going to have the option for 60 or 16 gigs in total. Really comes down to what you're doing. If you're just gaming, definitely go 2 4-gig sticks and then add another 2 4-gig sticks in the future whenever you feel like it. And that's even going to be adequate for streaming and recording. It's just, if you guys get into a lot of multitasking and video editing and stuff like that, you might want that extra memory. Kind of just a disclaimer there, but this is definitely going to knock it out of the park for entry-level gaming for sure. You could probably entry-level game with 4 gigs of RAM, but I don't want you guys just creeping along. I want you guys to be like, I got some good usage out of this computer. So the next thing we need is somewhere to store games. I'm going to suggest a 1 terabyte Western Digital Caviar Blue. And the reason why is you're going to get a full terabyte of storage, and you're going to be able to put, a decent collection of games on here. Games are getting bigger and bigger, and if I suggested an SSD to you, you might spend twice this amount and only be able to get a quarter of the games on there. This is going to let you get a lot of games on there, and if you have money in the future, definitely go ahead and try to get an SSD. It's going to make your computer run 10 times faster. But as it states right now, get a 1 terabyte hard drive, put as many games on there in the operating system, and just enjoy your computer, because it's still going to run pretty decent. The next thing that we're going to need is a graphics card. So this is a GTX 1050 Ti 4-gig edition. This is going to be a real bang for your buck graphics card. This is not going to be something that I'm going to mention like in 6 years is still going to be running 1080p 60 FPS on medium to high settings. It's not going to. What this is going to run now is games that are out now and maybe the next 2 years. It should be able to push medium 1080p perfectly fine, possibly 60 FPS, and then probably run 1080p high on some games. And depending on the game, it maybe get into 60 FPS territory, but it's not going to dip below 30 from what I would understand. Look up some reviews on 1080p or 1080p gaming for 1050 Ti's. But from what I understand of these cards, they are very solid cards for this. And yeah, they're going to be a great bang for the buck entry-level card. This is going to be probably one of those things that you'd want to replace within the first 3 years of computer gaming if you guys really get into it, because you're going to be able to have options for more monitors. You're going to have a ton of options with this. So definitely a nice card, 4 gigs of VRAM. Just a great card. So the next thing that we're going to need is a case. We're going to go ahead and look at the power supply first before we look at the case, mainly because the case doesn't really incorporate, doesn't affect the power supply. Everything else that you've selected up to this point affects which power supply you need. So right now this is telling me the estimated wattage usage is 225. That means you should be able to get away with 300 watt power supply. Excuse me. The problem you run in with using a very cheap power supply is that they could essentially blow up. They could fry all the other components, meaning you might have wasted $500 because you spent $20 on a power supply instead of $60. Some reputable names are like Corsair. I'd have to look them up, but there's quite a few of them. Look up some reputable power supplies. Normally they're going to have a certification, so you can see this is 80 plus certified. Look at 80 gold and platinum, stuff like that. They've got these different certifications for them. If they've got that certification, they're probably decent to use. But yeah, this says about 225. We selected a 650 watt, and the reason why is this is going to let you add more RAM, more drives, a beefier graphics card, and a beefier processor in the future, meaning if you ever upgraded this system, you are not going to have to buy another power supply for a decent while. And that is the whole purpose of this build, is to have upgradability. We'll go ahead and look at this for a second too. There's nothing special about it. It's just a regular power supply, and it's just all kind of wadded up there, but shows you the different connectors and stuff right here, I believe. Yeah, all the different connectors and whatnot. But yeah, super neat. Yeah, reputable brand. I like Corsair. I use Corsair products. So there we go. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is our case. This is going to be the last thing that I'm going to really say to you guys. I went Corsair with this as well. I'm not by any means a Corsair fanboy. This was a really well-priced case, under $50 on Amazon. And the reason why I recommend this case is because you do not want to buy a cheap case if you are a new PC builder. And the reason why is because cheap cases create a lot of problems for people who have never built a computer before. And also, this is a really decent entry-level case. And I'll kind of explain why. One, if you're new to PC gaming and stuff, you might want to look at it. It's got a side panel. That's by no means a quality feature. It just looks cool. Also, too, it's got front panel stuff. You might be used to that if you're used to using computers within, like any other environment other than home gaming. But, a lot of PC gaming towers and stuff don't really include front-facing inputs anymore. They're kind of all being migrated to the top or the back. If you're used to setting your computer under a desk, this might be useful for you. Next, the inside, you've got options if you guys wanted to put in like a CD or DVD drive, and you can also put a ton of hard drives in this little storage rack here. And it's got that front panel connector stuff like I mentioned, and it already comes with one case fan. And just overall, it seems like a very decent case. There's nothing over the top special about it. It's got a very it's got filtration and vents and stuff like that, but it is overall a very basic case for PC building, but it is also, from what I can tell, a very reliable case for PC building. And that's why I suggest it to anybody who's new to PC building, because it just offers a lot of that. And then you can see right here, there seems to be a lot of area in the back to start throwing your cables in whenever you got extra cables. So that is all with the case. And as you can see, with mail-in rebates and promos and stuff like that, we are under $500 actually with this. So if you went ahead and probably took those rebates off and say bought all your parts through Amazon, you'd probably equal out to around $500. So that is what this case or this build guide is for somebody who's wanting to spend around $500 and get into PC gaming. And I feel like this definitely does that. Alright guys, so that's going to be all for this video. If this helped you out, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment in the comment section down below with any questions you may have. I'm not going to be able to respond to everybody about every single little PC question you have, but I will definitely give that a shot. And that is going to be all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Chad from How To Tech, the channel dedicated to helping you take your tech to the next level, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.